Breaking news, and when I say breaking, I mean glass-shattering, wig-snatching, reputation-shredding chaos just detonated in reality TV land. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle those seatbelts. Hide your brunch mimosas and pray for your edges, because we have just witnessed what might be the most legendary meltdown in Huntsville history. And trust me, this city has seen some things. Picture this: cameras rolling, lip gloss popping, producers sipping iced matcha thinking it's just another reunion show, and then boom, Martell Holt goes nuclear like he found out the reunion buffet was vegan-only. Tables slammed. Voices raised. Respect left the building. Self-control couldn't make it past episode 1. And you know the internet, oh, they did not come to play. The memes, instant. The shade, Olympic level. The aunties in the comments, already asking for prayer lines and peppermint oil. But wait, why did Martell explode like a ring light dropped in a bathtub? What secret set him off? What receipts were waved in his face? And who leaked the footage faster than someone running from child support court? Grab your popcorn. Grab your bonnet. Because today we're diving straight into the meltdown that left Huntsville gasping. The cast shaking and fans screaming, "Oh no! Martell, not again." It began like every polished reunion day always does, in Huntsville, with lights too bright, smiles too stiff, and producers pretending they are in control, when really they are one eyelash extension away from a nervous breakdown. Cast members floated in acting peaceful, shaking hands, hugging for cameras as if they had not spent the last 6 months subtweeting each other, posting cryptic captions, and liking shady comments out of boredom or spite. Pick your flavor. Even Martell walked in with that familiar, confident stride like a man convinced life was back under his control. Convinced he was entering a victory lap rather than walking into the final 10 seconds of a ticking time bomb. But behind those polished shoes, behind the tight jaw and perfectly rehearsed posture, there was tension so thick that even the studio air conditioners felt like they gave up. Rumors had been swirling, whispers in corners. Quiet conversations in parking lots about an upcoming story. A mysterious investigation, a leak that nobody could trace but everybody could smell. People assumed Martell was unbothered, but the truth was hiding in his eyes, darting around the room like he was tracking ghosts. Then a production assistant slid an envelope toward him, neat, crisp, and innocent in appearance, yet carrying the type of weight that can break a man on camera. Martell opened it, read, and in that moment, his entire face shifted from calm calculation to something much darker. Something raw, as if every carefully built wall inside him cracked at once. There was no warning, no pause for dramatic music, no time for anyone to brace themselves. He slammed his hand on the table, shaking glasses, rattling nerves, and erasing any hope this reunion would remain polished. Conversations died instantly. Every pair of eyes locked onto him as if waiting for instructions from someone who clearly had none left to give. Martell rose, voice sharp, declaring that he would not play games, and the atmosphere snapped from glamorous reality show reunion to silent courtroom energy. Melody watched him, not with shock exactly, but with that tired heartbreak of someone who had lived this scene privately too many times to count. The room held its breath as Martell paced, muttering under his breath, turning his phone on and off like he was trying to stop a bomb from detonating. Then a notification popped up on his screen, and the moment he read it, everything inside him stopped. A Guardian inquiry, right to respond, attached documentation. Confirmation that every rumor whisper had teeth, and those teeth had finally bitten down. And while the cameras rolled and producers whispered and cast members exchanged glances of disbelief and fear, one reality settled over the room like a storm cloud that refused to move. This was no longer a show moment. This was a public implosion unfolding in real time. And everyone knew that once a crack like this begins, it does not politely close again. It widens, it swallows, and it devours everything tied to it. Phones began buzzing like trapped bees. A low hum of panic spreading through the room as Martell stood frozen in place, fingers tight around his phone. jaw locked as if holding back an explosion that already started leaking through his eyes. Melody stepped closer, not with anger, but with that quiet dread reserved for people who know the cost of chaos all too well. She asked softly what happened, but Martell barely breathed out the words that everything they had, every record, every statement, every little financial detail people assumed he managed flawlessly was now in someone else's hands, and that someone was preparing to expose it. Production staff exchanged looks filled with alarm because behind every reality star meltdown, there are contracts. Advertisers, filming schedules, and reputations stacked like dominoes, just waiting for one wrong move. Suddenly, the reunion was halted, not by choice, but by instinct. Like everyone understood the ground beneath them was shifting, and nobody wanted to be standing in the wrong place when it cracked open. Martell stormed down the hallway, pacing like a man trapped in a shrinking room, opening files, scrolling old messages, calling someone who did not answer, then calling again. That desperate rhythm of someone trying to hold back a flood with bare hands. Melody stayed behind for a moment, staring at the empty seat he left, her face heavy with equal parts fear and familiar exhaustion. Then she followed him, knowing whatever storm he was facing would inevitably reach her too. Back in the green room, Martell spread papers across a table, flipping through contracts, bank details, email threads, as if he could rearrange the truth by rearranging paper. His breathing was uneven, his voice sharp. Not yelling anymore, but whispering with that dangerous intensity of someone losing control quietly rather than loudly. Meanwhile, outside the studio, the internet already smelled drama. A short clip from that table slam, shaky and grainy, had hit group chats, gossip accounts, and fan pages. Comments poured in faster than the production team could breathe. Some cheering, some mocking, some pretending to be concerned, while secretly loving the chaos. Martell's name began trending, and once a name starts trending for the wrong reason, it becomes a current too strong to swim against. Executives began calling each other from separate offices, like generals in a silent war room, trying to decide whether to protect the face of the franchise or distance themselves before the damage spread. Melody returned to the green room, quietly closing the door behind her, watching Martell crumble without theatrics. The kind of collapse people do only when they realize the world sees them differently than they saw themselves. She sat down, not touching him, just present. Because sometimes presence is all that remains when pride has already been shattered. Martell finally looked up, eyes red, not from tears, but from the weight of reality pressing down harder than any storyline could. Outside the door, production stood still, waiting for a decision. Nobody knew how to make as the whispers of scandal grew louder, and the silence inside that room became the most dangerous sound in Huntsville. The hours that followed moved with a heavy stillness, the kind that feels like time knows something you do not and is waiting for you to realize it. Martell eventually stood up and walked out, not with the swagger he once carried like armor, but with the slow, uncertain steps of someone stepping into unfamiliar territory. The studio lights suddenly felt harsh, every camera lens a witness, every hallway shadow looking like judgment waiting to solidify. Cast members avoided eye contact, not out of cruelty but self-preservation, because nobody wants to be caught too close to a man whose public image is cracking while the world watches. Word had already spread beyond the set. Blogs were posting, podcasts preparing emergency live streams, and fans dissecting every blurry clip as if they were forensic analysts paid in drama. Sponsors sent polite but urgent questions. Lawyers whispered about clauses and contingencies, and network executives debated quietly whether loyalty to a star outweighed the tidal wave of scandal threatening to spill into headlines. Martell knew all this without hearing a single conversation. It was in the air, heavy and metallic, like the shift before a storm breaks. He looked around as if searching for the version of his life he once controlled, the one where he was the businessman, the provider, the man everyone was supposed to admire. But admiration fades fast when fear replaces it. He walked outside into the cold evening, the city lights blurring in the distance, and stood alone on a sidewalk while the building behind him buzzed with damage control. Moments later, Melody joined him again, quiet shoes on concrete, arms folded not in anger but in protection, as if bracing herself against wind only she could feel. She did not speak, and neither did he for a long moment. There is a silence that exists only between two people who have survived each other and still do not know what future looks like. Finally, Martell whispered that he felt everything slipping: the show, the businesses, the public respect he fought for even when he sabotaged it himself. And worst of all, the fear that once this story broke, he would not just lose the spotlight, but disappear completely into the noise of downfall. Melody's face softened, but there was resolve there too. A quiet understanding that every empire is tested, and some do not survive. She placed a hand on his arm, not to comfort, but to anchor him in reality, because denial is loud and truth arrives quietly. Like a cold hand on the shoulder. They stood like that for a moment, two people staring at the uncertain future, knowing the world was about to change again, and not in the way they once imagined. Eventually, Martell turned back toward the building, because running was pointless and facing the consequences was the only option left. As they reached the door, the hum inside faded into a thick hush, as if everyone sensed the moment before choice becomes fate. Martell paused, breathed once, pushed the door open, and stepped inside with a knowledge that everything after this moment would define not the man he wanted to be, but the man he truly was underneath every polished image the world ever believed. And now here we are, standing at the edge of whatever comes next. The calm before a louder storm, and the moment where everyone watching decides what they believe, what they support, and what they are willing to question. Stories like this do not end in one episode. They unravel slowly, revealing pieces nobody expected, shifting opinions, and challenging loyalties. So before you go, ask yourself, do you think this is the fall, the reset, or the beginning of something even more unpredictable waiting just past the next headline? Your voice matters in moments like this. Your thoughts shape the conversation. So tell me what you see, what you feel, and what you suspect is really going on behind the cameras. Drop your thoughts below. Keep the discussion alive. And if you want to stay ahead of every twist, every leak, and every truth waiting to surface, make sure you subscribe right now. This is BuzzVault, and we are just getting started. Just getting started.